Midnight. The diner lights flicker against the grease-stained walls, and there she is, Lisa bent over a table, rag in hand, scrubbing until her skin burns raw. The sound of laughter fades as the last customer leaves, but Lisa stays behind. Wiping away crumbs no one notices. To most, she's invisible, just another tired worker swallowed by endless shifts. But behind her weary eyes lived a fire. Her fingers bled, but her mind dreamed. Every table she cleaned became a quiet stage for her imagination. Dishes she would one day create, flavors no one had yet tasted, a space where strangers could sit and feel at home. No one watching her in that moment. Not her boss, not the late-night drunks, not even her closest friend, could have guessed that this girl scrubbing in silence would one day command a global empire of restaurants. Lisa wasn't alone in that diner. Beside her, often with sleeves rolled up and the same exhaustion carved into his face, was Mark. They weren't just co-workers, they were childhood friends who had grown up on the same cracked sidewalks, sharing hand-me-down dreams and the same hunger for something bigger. Lisa carried ambition in her eyes, sharp and unshakable, like she could already see the life they hadn't yet lived. Mark carried loyalty in his smile, tired but steady, a quiet promise that he'd stand by her no matter how heavy the nights became. Together, they scrubbed dishes, cleared tables, and laughed in between the chaos, as if their jokes could silence the ache in their bones. The diner paid them in coins, but what kept them alive was the belief, fragile but real, that someday, somehow, they'd build a tomorrow far beyond greasy plates and broken tips. Every night in that cramped diner was more than just labor for Lisa. It was a classroom. While her hands scrubbed plates, her eyes studied the rhythm of the room. She noticed how a bowl of soup warmed shivering shoulders, how a slice of pie softened the silence between a father and son, how flavors carried memories stronger than words. To Lisa, food wasn't just survival, and it was connection, healing, even love. Each table told a story, and she absorbed every detail like a secret lesson meant only for her. Mark, however, saw only the grind. To him it was sweat, aching backs, and bills that never stopped arriving. Where Lisa saw sparks of possibility, he saw walls closing in. That difference would quietly shape their paths. Two friends working side by side, but already standing in two different worlds. And deep down, Lisa knew her hunger was far beyond food. The diner's clatter was loud, but nothing pierced sharper than the whispers that trailed behind Lisa and Mark. Co-workers smirked as they passed, their words dripping with cruelty. Table cleaners dreaming of restaurants. What a joke. The laughter echoed longer than the sound of any plate. Lisa felt the sting, every word pressing against the fragile hope she guarded inside. Yet she swallowed the hurt, keeping her head bowed, her silence stronger than any reply. She knew dreams were delicate, and exposing them to mockery was like holding glass before stones. Mark stood by her, jaw clenched, the same insults cutting into him as well. His eyes would find hers in those moments, silently asking, "Are we foolish? Are we crazy to believe we're meant for more?" But Lisa's steady calm, her refusal to let bitterness win, was his answer. Hope was never madness. It was survival. The laughter of co-workers still lingered, but now another silence pressed harder, Mark's doubt. Bills stacked high on the counter, and every night left him more worn. One evening, beneath the flicker of a lonely street lamp, his voice broke the quiet. "Lisa, maybe we should stop. Find real jobs. At least then we'd survive." The words landed heavier than any insult. Lisa froze, staring at the friend who had always stood beside her. She knew it wasn't betrayal. It was exhaustion speaking through him, the weight of survival smothering his hope. But inside her, a fire refused to die. Her voice was steady, almost trembling with conviction. "I can't. Not now. Not ever." For the first time, the space between them felt vast. Mark's eyes carried weariness, hers defiance. Two friends walking the same road, yet in that moment it split into two paths, and neither knew if the other would follow. Rain lashed against the diner windows that night, thunder rolling like a restless drum. The door creaked open, and in stumbled a family. Drenched coats, trembling hands, children clinging to their mother. The place was nearly empty, the air heavy with storm and fatigue. But Lisa saw more than soggy strangers. She saw a chance to give them warmth. Without hesitation, she rushed to the back. A pot of soup simmered low, bread left from the day. She improvised, ladling steaming broth, toasting bread until golden, sliding it onto the table with quiet care. The family's shoulders loosened, their laughter softening the storm outside. A simple meal transformed the room, turning hardship into comfort, and as Lisa watched their gratitude unfold, a mother's teary smile, children's eyes glowing with relief, something sparked within her. It wasn't about fine dining or polished menus. It was about belonging, a place where food carried memory, where care was the secret ingredient. That night her true vision was born. The storm had passed, leaving the streets slick with rain. Lisa and Mark walked home in silence, shoes splashing. Through shallow puddles, the night air carrying the scent of wet asphalt. They were tired, worn from another long shift, another day of scraping by. Yet Lisa's heart was restless, still echoing with the warmth she had witnessed inside the diner. Under a flickering streetlight, she stopped. Her voice was quiet, but filled with something unshakable. One day, people will line up for our tables, not for money, not for fame, but because they'll feel at home. Mark froze, searching her face. His doubt was still there, etched into his weary eyes. But in that fragile moment, something softer broke through. He reached for her hand, their fingers interlacing against the chill. Two broke kids, standing in the glow of failing neon, yet bound by a promise that, though fragile, held the weight of destiny. It was a vow whispered to the night, daring the world to believe in them. The nights blurred into mornings and the days melted into each other. Lisa and Mark borrowed what little they could, every coin stretched thin, every borrowed dollar a gamble. Meals were skipped, sleep sacrificed, bodies pushed to their limits, but their dreams refused to rest. In a cramped, dimly lit kitchen, Lisa experimented tirelessly. Pots clanged, steam fogged the air, and flour dusted every surface. But each failed recipe brought her closer to the taste she imagined. She stirred, tasted, adjusted, and stirred again, chasing flavors that could make strangers feel at home, that could turn a simple meal into memory. Outside, Mark plastered handmade posters on street corners, cafe windows, and lampposts, shouting silently to a city that didn't yet know they existed. His loyalty was quiet but relentless. He became the voice to her hands, the wind beneath her fire. Through it all, their friendship was the only constant. When exhaustion weighed them down, when doubt crept into their hearts, a glance, a shared smile, a silent nod reminded them. They weren't alone. Together they were enough to chase a dream that no storm, no scarcity could ever drown. The first morning of their tiny food stall arrived like a fragile hope. Dust clung to the street corners, and the city moved, past, indifferent. Lisa and Mark stood behind the makeshift counter, a rickety table, a couple of folding chairs, and the scent of simmering broth that felt like the only thing worth believing in. At first, only a few neighbors wandered over, curious but hesitant. They tasted, nodded politely, and left, their footsteps fading like whispers. Lisa felt her chest tighten, the familiar weight of doubt pressing in. But she kept stirring, kept serving, her hands moving with quiet determination. Then a journalist appeared, notebook in hand. She tasted Lisa's soup, paused, and scribbled furiously. Jab. The next morning her words spread like wildfire. Food that hugs your soul. Suddenly the quiet corner was alive. People lined up, stretching down the block. Children tugged parents by the hand. Strangers shared tables and smiles. Mark's eyes found Lisa's, both of them stunned by the truth. This, their sweat, their sleepless nights, their sacrifice, had been worth it. The first taste of victory wasn't wealth or fame. It was the moment their dream became real. Success arrived quietly at first, in the form of envelopes, handshakes, and invitations to meetings that smelled of polished floors and expensive coffee. Investors came calling, eyes glinting with promise and expectation. Their words were like music and chains at the same time. "We can make you millions. All we ask is that you run this alone." Lisa's chest tightened at the thought. Millions could change everything, pay off debts, expand. The stall into a real restaurant, open kitchens across the city, maybe even the country. But the price demanded was more than money. It was the trust, the bond, the heartbeat of her journey. Mark. She shook her head, voice firm. "Not without him. Loyalty matters more than gold." Mark smiled, though the weight of guilt tugged at his shoulders. Alone in the small kitchen later, he wondered quietly if his presence was a chain around Lisa's ambitions. He loved the friendship that had carried them this far, but secretly feared he might be holding her back from the empire she was destined to build. The temptation was real, glittering, blinding, yet Lisa's compass pointed firmly toward loyalty, even when doubt whispered between them. The morning sunlight streamed through the small kitchen window, catching dust motes that danced like tiny specters. Lisa had just arrived when she saw it. Papers, signatures, a deal she hadn't approved. Mark had gone behind her back, signing away a part of the dream they had built together. The betrayal hit harder than any storm, any sleepless night, any mocking laugh from their past. The tiny empire they had nurtured with sweat and hope teetered, crumbling before her eyes. Every memory of shared struggle, every long night and stolen meal, felt suddenly fragile, as if it had been nothing more than sand slipping through fingers. Mark stood nearby, eyes heavy with guilt, words failing him. Lisa's heart throbbed with anger, disbelief, and sorrow all at once. For a long silent moment, the choice lay before her like a forked road. Forgive and risk being hurt again, or walk alone and rebuild from the ashes. Every instinct screamed, every memory whispered, but Lisa's fire, the same fire that had refused to die in the diner, in the storm, in the struggle, rose stronger. She knew she could fight. She had to fight, alone if necessary. Lisa stepped into the cold morning, city hum fading around her, unaware of the storm burning inside. She had nothing, no investors, no promises, no hand to hold, only her recipes and a fire that refused to die. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every scoffed dream became fuel, stoking a rage that demanded creation. She claimed a tiny abandoned kitchen, walls scarred with years of neglect. Flames licked pans, steam swirled, and the air filled with scents that carried both pain and possibility. Each dish became a story. Heartbreak folded into dough, frustration tempered in sauces, longing simmering under every lid. Night after night she tasted, adjusted, perfected. Pouring every ounce of herself into the work, alone, clarity emerged. The world could not define her. Only her hands, her heart, her vision could. Slowly, word spread. Orders trickled in. Neighbors returned, friends whispered encouragement. Lisa wasn't just cooking. She was reclaiming her dream, proving that even when everything falls apart, fire rises from the ashes. Her empire wasn't lost. It was waiting, forged in pain, tempered in perseverance, and brighter than anyone had imagined. The skyline of New York glittered like a constellation, but Lisa's eyes were on the street below, where her name, Lisa's Kitchen, glowed, in polished gold letters above a bustling doorway. From the corner stall she had once barely managed, her dream had grown into a global phenomenon. Cities across continents now carried her vision. From the crowded streets of Tokyo to the sunlit avenues of Paris, her restaurants weren't just places to eat. They were sanctuaries, spaces where every meal told a story of resilience, care, and heart. Inside her flagship, the energy was electric. Diners laughed, clinked glasses, and whispered thanks to servers who moved like extensions of Lisa's own hands. She walked through the dining room, absorbing the warmth she had once only imagined under the flickering streetlight with Mark. Then she saw him. Mark stood near the back, quiet, watching, his eyes shimmering with pride and nostalgia. No words were exchanged. None were needed. His silent applause was enough. In that moment, all the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the heartbreak, and the fire in the ashes converged into one undeniable truth. The dream had survived, had thrived, and had become bigger than either of them could have imagined. Lisa smiled, knowing she had built more than a restaurant. She had built a legacy. Lisa's journey wasn't a straight line. It was jagged, full of storms, betrayals, and nights when the world seemed determined to crush her. From scrubbing tables in a dimly lit diner to commanding kitchens across continents, every step was carved through sweat, sacrifice, and an unwavering refusal to surrender. Her story proves that success isn't measured solely in wealth or fame. It is forged in resilience, in the courage to rise after being knocked down, and in the strength to believe when everyone else doubts you. Every scar she carried became a tool, every heartbreak a lesson, every sleepless night a stepping stone. Lisa didn't just build restaurants, she built a life that honored the fire within her. And in doing so, she inspired countless others to see potential where others see failure. So to everyone watching, let your scars feed your fire. Let every setback sharpen your vision. Dreams may begin on the smallest, dustiest corners, but with courage and persistence, they can grow into empires. Lisa's story is a reminder: no table is too humble, no night too long, no betrayal too deep to stop someone determined to create something extraordinary. Subscribe and witness more stories that ignite the courage in all of us.